Thomas and Terrell show, episode number 9. Let's get it, bro.
Let's go in.
All right, I'm Thomas.
And
Introduce
I'm
yourself.
Terrell. It's the
Okay.
one and only, baby. Let's go.
All right. So there's a lot going on in the news this week. Even today, the news is changing very fast with our president, President Biden. He's going through a lot. They're coming for him. I mean, I haven't seen it. They going after Biden like his name is Trump.
Man, look, this is the first time we've seen in history where they went after the former president in a legal matter. And now this is the first time they're talking about uh, the sitting president that's up for re-election that can go for a second term, not even being a front candidate for his party, which has never been done, is like insane. So it's like, what a time to be alive to see this, how this unfolds right now. History in the making.
It is. It is. It's unprecedented. And I hate to see the agenda in the media. And I was watching CNN, which I rarely watch, and to see Jake Tapper just playing clips of Joe Biden's interview with George Stephanopoulos that happened last week Friday, and reading literally what Joe Biden said, and it's gobbledygook. But that's I see right after the debate on CNN, I saw the personalities on CNN going after Joe Biden really hard. And it's okay if you're reporting the news, but to see them targeting him like that, like they have an agenda to get him out of office, I find that disturbing and unappealing. And what made it so striking is they went hard for Joe Biden, and I'm used to seeing that from CNN with Donald Trump. They've been doing it for 5 years, and I just don't think it's something the news channel should do. And I don't like them to do it to Joe Biden. I don't like them to do it to Donald Trump. Just report the news.
I mean, I agree, man. The problem is, man, too many outlets are trying to get views, and so they're just trying to create a stir. And this is the time that us as a community must really, it's not just the black community, people in general need to really pay attention to the facts and pay attention to what's going on and read the fine print. And a lot of times we don't take the time to read the fine print in things, and we end up falling for the okie doke. And then people get in the office is like, man, that's not what you said you was gonna do, or how'd this happen? Well, you didn't read the fine print. You just looked at the big writing and didn't understand what the terms and the conditions really were because you didn't read through everything. And this is the time that we need to read through everything and understand what we're getting. And then understand, like, all right, if you are good for it, you vote for this person, be willing to accept what you get from that person because you put them in office.
So, what do you think about when people say, I don't care if Joe Biden becomes president, even though I see the apparent deficits that he has? Because I've heard a few things. Number one, I've heard whatever he is, he's better than Donald Trump because Donald Trump is a racist, Hitler-like personality. So whatever we get from Biden is better than Trump. Or they say Biden has people around him to help him make decisions. It's not just him. You're voting for the group around him. And so any deficits that he has, it's all right because his people can take care of it.
And here's the thing, nobody's perfect. And you're talking about racist for, President Trump being a racist, or President Biden being for the black community. It was the saying, like, you ain't not black if you don't vote for me. But people fail to realize that President Biden is the same person in the 80s that voted for the three strikes and the crack epidemic with President Reagan back in the incarceration of black and brown people. So at the same time,
You referring to the 94 crime bill?
94 crime bill um, that came out, and even when President Reagan, the whole crackdown on with in the inner city with crack cocaine, um, with those bills and legislations for, Department of Justice and sentencing people for those crimes. But at the same time, people forget that. But then people call President Trump a racist for what he did to the Central Park Five, and his housing issues of discrimination, and then the things he said while he was in office and support what they said supporting uh, the insurrection, or the out in Charleston at the University of Virginia out there with the tiki torches and calling them fine people on both sides and all of that. Everybody has their flaws. The question is for people, which one of them are the lesser of the two evils? Which of them are the closest to what you're willing to stand for in this process? Now, are there some independent candidates? Yes, because there were a talk of who is it? Robert Kennedy Jr.
Right.
Being a candidate, but you haven't heard anything really about that as far as his campaign, if it's still going strong or not, just
It's
to
dead
take
in the
votes
water.
away.
It's dead in the water.
So you have these two candidates. Once again, which one are you gonna vote for? Now, if some type of crazy thing happens where history changes itself and President Biden won't be the front runner for the Democratic Party, it goes to then who's gonna be that front runner for the Democratic Party to come in. Some people say it should be Vice President Harris. I've heard other people rumbling saying, "Hey, it should be the former First Lady Michelle Obama." Then me and you were talking. We were talking about what was the governor of California as a possibility. So many different things. I think that we need to really focus on what issues do we want to see addressed. What are our standards, our morals, and our values, and which candidate is the closest to those of what we're looking for.
Well, I don't know if you've ever heard the saying, if you come for the king, you better not fail. And I think
True.
that's what's happened to a lot of people in politics who immediately after the debate said that Joe Biden should get out of the race. And they came out very strong. You even had some powerful people in Congress, like Congressman Jerry Nadler said that Biden should get out of the race. You've had, I believe, 8 Congress people, Democrats, who said that Biden should get out of the race, and they jumped the gun and they started picking Biden's replacement. Oh, it should be Gavin Newsom, or it should be you can't jump over Kamala Harris because Kamala Harris is a black woman and she has the seat as the vice president. You can't jump over her to pick a white man or a white woman. And so because the black community would be mad and women would be mad. And they're making all of these arrangements, and they forgot about one thing. Joe Biden hadn't made a decision to get out. And he might have looked old and feeble in the debate, but he's a strong-willed individual. He says, I'm not getting out. Joe Biden has been waiting for his chance to be president for the last 50 years. And he got his shot. He's not giving it up. He's not going to be one of the few presidents who resigned their presidency or just walked away from the office. He's worked too hard for it, and he's waited too long for it. And so he came out in no uncertain terms and said, I'm not going anywhere. Only an act of God could get me out of this race. He said the people voted, and he has a point. The people voted for me, the primary voters. They didn't vote for anybody else. Mm-hmm. And I owe it to them to complete this mission. And I agree with him. Now, there's another concern is does this person have the mental faculties to carry out the duties of the presidency? I mean, this is the man who controls the nuclear codes. I mean, if he wakes up in a fever sweat and has a delusion that he's somewhere else under different circumstances, does he try to push that button? I know there's protocols.
Stop. Stop. Cold sweats and then delusional. Come on, stop. That's a reach. That's a reach. People could say that about President Trump. If he decides he just wakes up and be like, "Oh, I don't like these people this day. Let me go there," or they didn't pay me enough money, or they didn't give me the plan that I wanted to build my new hotel and casino. Man, come on.
Stop.
Huh?
First of all, you got
what I'm saying. It's ludicrous. It's crazy.
Well,
it's a far reach.
I don't know what your sources are, have you heard some of the things that Joe Biden has said? So I mean, the
I've heard
name
things both candidates have said, and they
names that
both said some pretty outlandish stuff.
he doesn't know where he is. He shakes hands with people who's not there. He has note cards to keep him from getting lost on the stage. He forgets the names of powerful world leaders. He says that he works from 10 to 4 p.m. He's sleepy after 4 p.m. There was a report on the news today that he missed the meeting with the German chancellor at a meeting in overseas in Europe, and everybody at the meeting was surprised, and the Secretary of State had to tell these leaders that Joe Biden went to bed. Is so. Listen, I'm not criticizing him because he's older. We all have parents, we all have grandparents that we love. The question is, do you have the stamina and the mental faculties in order to complete the job? And people can say, well, Joe Biden is old, Donald Trump is old. You're being dishonest and you're being unduly partisan if you don't recognize that Donald Trump clearly has more energy than Joe Biden, more stamina than Joe Biden, and is more present mentally than Joe Biden. Now you can, listen, Donald Trump comes with his flaws. I'm not saying Donald Trump is perfect by any stretch of the imagination. But when it comes to being mentally present and having the stamina for the most difficult job in the world, clearly there's a difference.
I agree. He is a much stronger, and when it comes to stamina, his mental capability is a little bit better when you look at the two. But they're only like 3 or 5 years apart. you know,
It's not about the age.
No, it's not about the age, but I mean, you have some people that are 70 years old that look like they probably in their mid 40s, and you got other people that's 40 something that look like they're 80. However, at the end of the day, we must remember we need to put the best candidate in office to guide this country, and that it doesn't matter. You can't just be loyal to one party. You have to look at the big picture and who's giving you the best opportunity to achieve that goal for the big picture. That's the bottom line of what it is. No matter how many big words you use and how many analogies you want to use, the bottom line is who's going to help us achieve that big picture the best.
Right. Agreed, my brother. Agreed. So have you heard about this Project 2025? So apparently this is an outline of how Donald Trump should manage his presidency if he should be elected in the next election. And it addresses issues such as personnel and getting rid of these deep state operators, as they call them, people entrenched in government in high positions, but these career civil servants who, even though the administration may change, they'll still serve the interests of the previous administration. It has to do with certain policies that they believe that Donald Trump should initiate. There's some former staffers from Trump's campaign who worked on the 2025 project. And you have a lot of people saying that this is Donald Trump's outline for what he's going to do. Donald Trump just came out a few days ago and says, I don't know anything about it. This is not me. I agree with some of the things that they say. Some of the things are crazy. But people don't believe him. They're saying that because it's unpopular, he's trying to distance himself from it, but it's what he intends to do. So that's something that's going on, and I'm reading a lot about it. Apparently, a lot of people are talking about this 2025 project. Now, I've seen some crazy things. I mean, some people say, well, he's going to ban teaching kids about slavery. And that's not a part of it. The whole plan is 900 pages, but that allegation specifically is something that we heard about, for example, in Florida, they're taking some books for younger children, eliminating those books from school libraries, not public libraries, but just in school libraries. There has been no ban on teaching Black history. There's been no ban on teaching slavery. Okay, but there is a ban on some materials that are explicitly CRT and sexually explicit material for younger children. But banning books about slavery is not a part of the 2025 project or any state law in this country. But it's something that people are going to be seeing and reading about it. I think there's been some misrepresentations about it, and so people need to really read and, like you said, read and find out for yourself, because I've seen some lists out there that they're going to put us back in chains and
well, that's not gonna happen.
yeah,
I
or
tell you that
fire
right now, because
fire.
look, yeah.
Yeah.
This won't be Roots 2.0. I tell you that. This won't be no Roots 2.0 over here.
Mm,
And the America will not. The people in America, the majority of people, wouldn't even allow that to happen. First of
right.
all,
Mm,
that is a no go. So people have to understand the times, and then the percentage of people that think far left, far right, on issues. The percentage of people that have, what I'm saying, the greater good of the country in mind is a far bigger percentage than those that are the extremists on those type of things. Period. Far as the 2025, man, it brings up some interesting points on that could be good, but also could be dangerous when you're talking about removing people from the previous um cabinet. Um, what what is going to be done? How does that affect the incoming cabinet? Is it going to be like what I'm saying, a dictatorship, like whatever I say is going to go, I'm going to make sure everything I want is and push goes through? That could be kind of dangerous if you're talking about doing that, because there still needs to be some type of balance in there. And when I'm saying balance, because it can't be a bunch of yes people working.
yeah, there is clearly still checks and balances. We hear a lot of alarmist language about this is the end of the democracy because of this immunity ruling by the Supreme Court, which basically says that a president has immunity, whether in office or out of office. A former president that's out of office has immunity for official acts taken during the presidency, and there's no immunity for unofficial acts. And there's a presumption that acts are taken for
Mm-hmm.
as official acts. And the law,
Uh-huh.
the ruling also says is that official acts can't be used as evidence in prosecuting a president for any other crime, which affects, in Donald Trump's case, the convictions that the 30 something convictions that he got in New York City for the Stormy Daniels situation. And so there's a lot of discussion about, well, that decision makes any president, but most dangerously Donald Trump, because it provides him immunity for his first term in office for certain things and any future term, which many people find most scary. But I don't think that it is not a license to be a dictator. There are still checks and balances. The Supreme Court still exists. Congress still has a role, even though the trend has been to give the executive, the president, more and more
Mm-hmm.
power. But I think any discussion about Donald Trump becoming a dictator and this is the last election ever if he wins is just silly alarmism. There's no evidence for it, and I think if Donald Trump gets elected, he'll serve his 4 year term, and we'll see how it goes. But I don't think he has any interest in destroying the country that his family lives
I mean, it would be best that nobody would want to do that. And when I was saying dictatorship, I wasn't just talking about President Trump. It's just in general for whoever. And shoot, it could have been President Biden for that matter. He's not excluded from that thing. But like you said, when people say dictatorship, they automatically go to President Trump, and to in all fairness, that's not fair. For to be like that towards him. Um, but at the same time, once again, this shows this the way things are presented aren't always what they seem. You have to look past that, people have to be able to look past that once again, because the way it's presented is to alarm you. That's what the media does. They present things to be very alarming and get you in an uproar and expect people to vote off their emotions instead of off their intellect, their intelligence, and being educated on the votes that they're making. They want you to vote off pure emotions a lot of time, and then you get these things passed. So, I hope that a lot of people, more people have learned not to vote, be an emotional voter, this go around.
All right, so this election that's coming up, Black people have an opportunity, as we do in every election, to present our list of demands. Not that we all speak with the same voice, but to the extent that there are Black organizations that exist, to present a united front from certain corners of the Black community, what would you say are the top several things that Black people as a group should be demanding from the next president?
Demanding,
Yeah,
man,
as
it's so many. I mean, it's there's so many things that you can pick from. I mean, from if you're talking about just the inner cities being funded properly, the states being, to get that money for more rec centers to be open, which deals with the local government in itself. But the money, a lot of it, this money is coming through federal funds that are going to the cities. How do we get doing that? How do we deal with the Department of Justice and reform for how we're being sentenced for crimes? One of the biggest things, examples I use for our sentencing with crime is Tim Allen. Tim Allen is this big superstar comedian, made millions of dollars, but he was also arrested for drug possession back in his day. Got off on a light sentence, but we also know somebody that got arrested for drug possession during that same time and got a hefty sentence. And which those type of things are still going on. How do we get this reform to go on to for the DOJ and with the sentencing with the Department of Justice, the housing, dealing with more jobs, bringing more jobs into America instead of going overseas? How do we raise the income of the middle class? Because the cost of living is going up. How can we be put in better positions to make more money? How can we keep more of our jobs over here in America? How can we make more of our own products for ourselves instead of everything saying made in China? How do we get our own products? How do we make sure there other countries are paying the premium for our stuff like we pay for theirs? Other things you got to look at, um, what programs are going to be implemented for, hey, new skills for the people that are coming up, because everybody's not going to college now. A lot of people are getting certs, and then you got a lot of people trying to use AI to take over jobs. So how do we limit AI taking over majority of the jobs as far as the workforce, to keep people employed and making money and keeping it circulate? So those are just some of the issues that I see that can definitely be brought up. We're talking also the housing. You know, how do we deal with the housing issue? One of the bigger things, even so, is, which is close to my heart, veterans, the military, funding for the military, funding for programs for veterans. That we shouldn't have any homeless veterans. I mean, homelessness is bad as, alone by itself, but you got people that serve this country that are homeless. Why do we don't? We need to go ahead and get these programs running to get them off the street, get them better health care, give the military people a raise, go ahead and push more money into better equipment, the housing for military families that are there. Continue to build that up and make it better to for these people that are making these sacrifices out here. And so a lot of people forget about that stuff when they come back. There have been a lot of programs implemented to help people, but there's so much more that we can do. And also a mental health crisis that's going on right now. What are we going to do as far as mental health? I think is a big issue too, because you got to, man, it is so overwhelming as far as that issue with mental health, and so many people being burned out, that they're leaving their profession, and it's leaving patients out here with nowhere to go.
What do you think about reparations?
I don't think it's ever gonna happen.
Mm-hmm.
So to me, it's like beating a dead horse. Why? It's talking to a wall. I don't. It's not gonna happen. So what can we do to make this country better and make ourselves better from this point on? Should be the focus, in my opinion.
Yeah, that's hard to disagree with. There's a lot of people who that's their number one issue. Like if they're mad at President Biden because on Juneteenth he didn't talk about reparations, and they're unhappy with him because it's not a major part of what he's talking about. And that's never been a big issue for me. I just think logistically, it's almost impossible to implement without some complicated formula and claims process. You have black people who arrived in the United States after the end of slavery, people from the Caribbean, people from Africa, people from other countries. Do they
Mm-hmm.
say, what about folks who are mixed? I might be 1/16 black, or 1/24. And if anybody has tried in the modern era to do a family tree and go back several generations with all of the secret kids, and you don't know who the
Yeah.
daddy is, and
Hey.
I mean, you look how much fraud was in the PPP program, um, of billions of dollars. Just imagine how much fraud is going to be in the reparations program. And I'm not saying that because I think black people are maybe more fraudulent than anybody else, but it's just a matter of being able to prove your claim.
Man, look, the rich are not gonna let this roll. The wealthy are not gonna let this roll. And like they find a way to get out of taxes and accumulate more resources as far as land and all of that other stuff. They're gonna find a way for that too. But at the same time, people have to understand you're asking for something. Let's just say you get it. What are you gonna do with it?
Right.
A lot of people aren't prepared to deal with what comes with getting that. A lot of I look at it like even with money. A lot of people say, "Oh man, if I have $5 million, I'll be set for the rest of my life." But what you don't understand is how does the taxes work when you're in a new tax bracket? What you also don't understand is how do I keep this money flowing and working for me? Because a lot of people spend a lot of that money, but don't recuperate that money back to go ahead and put it back and find other ways to keep the uh, income and revenue building. So they have no knowledge on money management. They have no discipline, and they're not very educated on how to do a business plan. So they get with some people that just scam them, and because they're not aware of these things. So if you get 48, say your 40 acres, what are you going to do with your 40 acres? Do you even know how to take care of 40 acres? Some of y'all can't even take care of an apartment.
Well, I mean, 40 acres and a mule were those are money making. Those are investments. Those aren't. It's not a car that you drive that it depreciates that doesn't make you any money. 40 acres and a mule was intended, if it was actually given, to generate wealth, to generate revenue, and it doesn't deplete.
It was given, just not to us.
Right, right. So
Facts.
yeah, and so I don't think it's worth spending a whole lot of time on. Obviously, I think it's very clear that the black community was harmed by the institution of slavery. I mean, you just can't take that away. But I know for me, I want equal opportunity. I want an equal
That's it.
shot. And I want the American dream, just like I don't think black people are any different in that regard. Like we have special needs that other people don't have. We want our children to grow up safe, healthy, have a good education, and have a fair shot at living a good and decent life through hard work, like everybody else. And
Yeah.
so a rising tide lifts all boats. I mean, black people are out here getting killed by inflation. You have to make a choice as to whether you're going to send your kid to daycare or buy food or buy this medicine or be able to pay your light bill.
Mm-hmm.
And so the cost of, I don't know, a can of beans or a cost of a package of chicken goes up a few dollars. For a lot of households, that makes a huge difference. And so a lot of us who quote unquote made it, or we have a decent job, we can absorb those price increases. We can go out to eat and not even look at how much the menu items cost.
Yeah,
And we
but
don't.
that's still a small percentage because now you even got nurses that are struggling to live a comfortable life. At one point, if you're a nurse, you were living really comfortable. You know, that was a profession that like, hey, yeah, you're good. You know, certain professions that used to be comfortable are no longer comfortable. It's a lot of people living check to check. And you know, like for me, I got gas a couple days, probably like 2 days ago, and it was like 3.27 a gallon. I went to the gas station this morning. That junk was 3.49. I'm like, dude, this is 22-cent junk
Right.
right now. This
Mm-hmm.
is crazy. That gas jumped that much. Gas shouldn't be costing me almost $4 a gallon. Period.
Well, and that's why people have to pay attention to the issues because, for example, when it comes to energy, since you brought it up, it was, you know, you had Donald Trump talking about drill, baby, drill. You had Joe Biden who said that it's his goal to destroy the or kill the oil industry, the fossil fuel industry. And people say, well, by doing that, you drive up the cost of gasoline. Everybody doesn't have an electric car now. But Joe Biden comes back and says, well, um, oil producers are getting more oil out of the ground now than they ever have. So finding out what's the actual truth in regard to that is kind of hard to put your finger on, but people have to have a basic understanding of economics that you can't kill the oil industry and expect gas prices to go down because it's a matter of supply and demand. The more oil that's available, the cheaper it's going to be. That's why when you went to the gas station before the holiday, as you approach the holiday, the gas went up because there's higher demand because people are driving more during the holiday. After the holiday, gas prices go down because there's more supply on the market. And that's
Mm-hmm.
supply and demand. So you can't run around talking about environmentalism and at the same time expect cheap gas. You just like you can't go around demanding $20 an hour for somebody who works at a fast food restaurant and expect the value meal to cost $5.99. That might appear out of thin air. And so in
Mm-hmm.
California, you have a bunch of fast food chains going out of business. And that person who was making $15 an hour minimum wage and the government says has to be 20, now that person is making zero because a CEO is not going to dig into their pocket or take a loss to pay an employee wages. That's not why a business exists. A business exists to make a profit. And so I think when it comes to Black people, we need an environment and an economy that's thriving, and our wages will go up. And we need to have safety, and we need to not be discriminated against, and just again have a fair shot. We want the same American dream that everybody else has, and
Right.
we need to look at the candidates and demand from them explanations about how bad the other guy is. Tell me what you're going to do. Don't try to distract me with the end of the world if
Mm-hmm.
the other guy gets elected. Tell me point by point what you're going to do to make my life better. And don't tell me about giving me things. Tell me about giving me opportunities so I can compete. You know, and I
Exactly.
and by the way, this country gives more money to corporations and arms dealers, billions and billions of dollars. Where do you think the $200 billion for Ukraine, where that money is going? Every time we hit an economic crisis, our government is bailing out automakers, bailing out airlines, bailing out banks. Billions and billions and billions of our tax dollars. That's welfare. That's money that could be actually used to improve our communities, better schools, better pay for our troops, better pay for police officers, better pay for teachers,
Mm-hmm.
better infrastructure. And they're just robbing us, giving money to their friends and corporations. But it also doesn't help when you give money to people who and rob them of their motivation to create. to be competitive. And that goes for corporations and that also goes for individuals. We should have a social safety net to help people who can't help themselves. But saying that you're giving reparations to somebody and saying every like this stupid committee that they had in California that said every black person should get $4 million. Like, come on. It's just, it gets to the point where it's just ridiculous.
It sounds nice, but that's not realistic
at all. It's asinine. Give people an opportunity to be able to compete fairly. Stop robbing the taxpayers to pay off their friends in these defense contractors and corporations stadiums. There's no reason why any municipality should be given $1 billion to build $1 billion stadium for a team, and that team then owns the stadium. Why? If you can't compete, you got athletes getting $300 million contracts. These sports entities are making billions of dollars a year for every franchise, and why should the taxpayers be paying for their buildings that we have to pay exorbitant amounts to even visit and get into? It's not like it's a public park to enjoy without paying.
No. But here's the thing, Tom. It's like this. Every businessman loves to spend other people's money, but keep his money. So if I can get you to spend your money and I get to keep my money and I'm still going to make a profit after you spend your money on top of me keeping my money, that's business. That's great. Why? If I want something in your city that now I'm bringing money to your city, because the way they're looking at it is, if I own a sports team, my sports team is in your city. Every time I have a game, I'm employing people to serve people at the concession stands, the parking, the security in there, the team at all of these people are employed. The police officers that are going to be there for the games to keep things safe. All the food vendors, and then the fans that are coming, it's money being pumped into your city. So if I'm bringing this on a consistent basis and I'm able to hold concerts and all of this stuff here, this is what I'm bringing to you, value. So I need you to give me $1 billion to build this stadium to keep this money coming into you. I got it, but I don't want to spend my money.
I call bullshit on that, because it's not some type of altruistic endeavor. They're not giving it. They're getting something in exchange. It's an investment.
But that's what I'm saying. Yeah. It's every businessman or woman loves it when they don't have to spend their own money. Now, they're going to go ahead and negotiate where the city's going to get something, or, you know what I'm saying, other people are going to get what they want out of it too, because nothing's for free. So that's what it is. But I don't agree with it. I'm with you, because we end up paying for it. Because at the same time, those tax dollars could have went to building a better school, funding, like you said, for teachers, or a new community center for the kids, or hey, let's do another program for skills for these people that we can go ahead and have this community thriving better, or investing more into urban farming where we can get more equipment in and stuff, and teaching them with the farming and how everything works together. More money pumped into those type of programs. There's so many different things we can do.
Yeah. And so we have to demand from our politicians that they become accountable to us, because it seems like they're more accountable to corporations, to lobbyists, and they just see their public office as an opportunity to make their friends rich at the expense of people who go to work every day, and they grab 40-50% of our income and do whatever the hell they want to do with it. And we don't get a return on our investment. And they're spreading our money all over the world. Everybody is taken care of.
Mm-hmm.
Who've been here, the people who've sacrificed, worked hard, and who live here. I mean, we see the situation with immigration. And you have people in the inner city, Chicago and other cities, complaining, saying, "Listen, I've been here my whole damn life,
and I don't even get $5,000 a month."
We can't. You talk about community centers, we can't go because you got a bunch of illegal immigrants living in there. You using our tax money, the little money that we have that you take from us, and you giving it to people who broke the law to come here. And okay, you want to take care of them, but you got to take care of us too. You can't forsake us and then bless these strangers.
They put them in like 5-star hotels. and
Right.
giving them like $5,000 or more a month, and then but we got to sit here. You give us a bunch of red tape just to get $1,000.
Yeah,
So it's not adding up.
right. But I think people have to speak up. You have to understand the issues. You can't go around pounding the table. You know, com- just commit yourself to one party, whatever party that is, and then expect that you're going to be respected because um, you're not willing to look at the other side or give the other side a chance. And so once somebody takes your vote for granted, they're not going to do anything for you because they know you loyal. You're going to be there no matter what they do. They smack you around, and 4 years later, you come back, and then they for 3.5 years they kick you around. But at 3 years and 9 months, they come to your church and bob their head to your gospel song. Your pastor
Or
get
not
right.
be
Your, your,
frozen.
your pastor get the old folks home that he wanted to put in the parking lot of the church
Mm-hmm.
uh, as a payoff, and you in the same position that you've been.
So
You
let
got
me ask you this:
yeah.
you talking about being kicked around and those things and coming around. What about the radio host, radio talk show host that resigned after the interview with President Biden?
All right, so Biden, who doesn't do many interviews with anybody, white radio, black media. I mean, the guy is just he doesn't want to do an interview for obvious reasons. And so after the debate debacle, he needs to get out there and show that he has the chops to be president. So his people with this station, hold on, I might be able to show everybody. Let me see here. Give me 1 second. We live here. All right, here we go. All right, here she is. Can you see that, bro?
Yeah.
All right, so this radio host fired after admitting to using Biden's prepared questions. Her name is Lawful Sanders, is her last name. Andrea Lawful Sanders, a black radio host in Pennsylvania. So, as a condition for her doing this interview, the Biden people say, "Well, you only can answer our questions." So she goes on CNN and she she tells the CNN host on TV that she did this, and her radio station fires her because that's not how an interview is supposed to be done. That's not an honest interview. And I haven't heard an apology from the Biden campaign. But this woman lost her job because Biden doesn't have the ability to do an effective extemporaneous interview. This is not a situation where he can call on people and have the questions prearranged and have little note cards with the picture of the people that he's supposed to call on because they worked out something in advance.
Did
You
you
know,
say pictures on the card?
no,
Really?
this is real.
I know,
This is
but the fact that we talking like we little kids and they little cards, man. The learning letters and numbers.
yeah. It's sad. I think you just need to be honest with people about your capabilities. And
Mm-hmm.
stop trying to commit this fraud on people. Stop trying to pretend something that you're not. Franklin Roosevelt had polio, and he was in a wheelchair for a long time, and American people didn't know because American president can't be seen as being weak physically because then it would put his position and potentially the country at a disadvantage because then other
Mm-hmm.
aggressive world leaders will see that as a weakness. And so I can understand as somebody who's running for office, somebody who's trying to maintain a certain status on the world stage and wants to hide that. But we're in an environment where people talking about honesty, people talking about
Mm-hmm.
integrity, and then we get into this contest. Well, who's the bigger liar? This one lied 50 times. Well, the other one, my guy only lied 19 times.
I mean,
I
they
mean,
all lie, man. Like you said, they all lie. My whole thing, you picking the lesser of the two evils. And quite frankly, at the same time, people could say, well, she should have used integrity and, and said, no, that's not how I'm doing it. So either we do a fair interview or no interview. And
Yeah,
I don't care, president or not. That if we're going to give the people the honest truth and be fair, then this is what we're going to do. Plain and simple. I'm not going to build a narrative just to make you look good. The narrative is we all have flaws, and the people need to see you for who you are, and that's both candidates.
absolutely. That's a great point, bro. Well, one of the things that's happened here locally that's really been on my heart is that over the weekend there was a block party in Detroit. It's what the police call an illegal block party. I guess you're supposed to get some type of permit. Maybe they blocked the streets off. I don't know the
Mm-hmm.
specific details, but in this one incident, 21 people were shot. Now
Yeah,
I'm
two
in,
died, right?
yeah, yeah. Did you see that on the national news? How did you find out about
Because I read the newspaper from home,
that?
you
Okay,
know, and Facebook as well. But reading the newspaper, I always read the newspaper from home
when you say
just to
from
see
home,
what's going
because you're from Detroit.
home from Detroit. I'm from Detroit, born and raised. Detroit
All right.
all day.
Here,
Um,
here's the
but
problem.
growing up,
Mhm.
but here's the thing though. I read about it, and I got frat brothers that are police officers there. He even made a post about it. He don't even talk about his job. And when he made a post, he wasn't even talking as a police officer. He was talking as a citizen and just a human being in general. Growing up in Detroit, you remember we used to have block parties. We used to have the art fair. That was a couple blocks over from our street that we used to go to the road Grandmont Rosedale art fair every year.
On
It used
Rutland.
to be exactly, and
Mhm.
it was the whole street from Schoolcraft down there to Grand River
Right.
that you were able to walk down. There was food vendors out there, a good time. Black parties used to be good, but yes, you're right. You're supposed to have a permit, but at the same time, what have we gotten to, man, where people just have no regard and you can't even go out and have a good time? And no, it wasn't on the national news. Well, actually, yes, it was. It was on national news. Uh, it was on last night, like on ABC uh, news, nightly news. It came on that
Hmm.
they talked about it because they were just talking about the amount of shootings that have happened in the big cities since the weather has gotten hot, like the Windy City, Detroit,
Yeah.
um, those areas.
You had 100 people shot in Chicago. I think 17 people killed over the weekend.
It's crazy. Every time it gets hot there, it becomes like Fallujah or Iraq all over again, all over
Yeah.
again. I think they need to send in like, to me, they need to send like a a federal task force out there, man, that just needs to start doing some cracking down out there, man. I don't know what's going on, but that is utterly ridiculous.
Well, one of the issues that I have, obviously, first of all, that is happening. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
it's just sad the amount of violence that's occurring. But also, what's shocking is that the lack of coverage. I'm talking about sustained coverage, and
Mm-hmm.
because there's a difference in coverage than, for example, ABC News doing a story about all of the violence across the country since it's gotten hot, versus if that was a police officer who killed a black person, then you know um, it would be CNN on scene,
Mm-hmm.
MSNBC on scene. Al Sharpton would be here, and you would have the whole thing. Al Sharpton at the funeral, Joe Biden giving a phone call. If it was a illegal immigrant that killed a little white girl, then you would have Sean Hannity and Fox News here, and the Five and all of those Fox shows. They would be talking about it. So you have this all of this death, and if nobody can make a political narrative out of it, then it doesn't get any attention. You have 21 people. The lives of those 21 people are no less valuable than the lives. Uh, and I don't know who the shooter was. I don't think they found the shooter, but this was in the inner city Detroit neighborhood. And I think the
Mm-hmm.
presumption is that the victims were black and the shooters were black, or shooter was black. Because if not, we would have heard about it. If it was a white person, that we would be hearing about it for the next 10 years. If it was a
Hmm.
police officer, there would be T-shirts and murals. You know,
That's been one of my biggest gripes. I agree with you.
and
I
and
agree.
and, and so unless somebody can make some money out of it, get a click off of it, if it's just run of the mill black people killing black people, then nobody wants to talk about it. Ain't nobody gonna get a phone call from Joe Biden.
Hmm.
Kamala Harris, not gonna be no Chucks, not gonna be no pearls. It's just so hypocritical. I mean, it's 21 people shot. Where are the marches in the street? Where's the anger? Where's the outrage?
And that's one of my biggest things that has really bothered me is like every time you have like the George Floyd or Tavon Martin and all of those cases, Mike Brown, is once again all of those people showed up for that and there's been marching rallies. But where y'all at when it's everyday crimes like this? Where are the marchers at in the Windy City for all the crimes and the shootings that are happening? And man, look, this black this the black on black crime and shooting each other over what though? What are we killing each other over? The way you looked at me, you took the last piece of chicken, or my girl, this and that. Man, come on. There's so many bigger issues out there that need to be tackled that we can really have a, what I'm saying, real frustration on. You know, Protect your family by all means, but at the same, but it wasn't even about protecting your family. Who are you showing off for? What point are you proving? Y'all fighting over property you don't own. You ain't got the deed to nothing that you claiming is your block. You're not making the kids better. You're not pumping in money into the community to make it circulate properly. That's positive money. What are we doing? Why are we killing each other like this? Why can't we go out and have a good time at a block party and listen to good music and dance, have a good time and eat good food, then go back home alive? We should be able to do that.
We should. We should. I think there's a lot of stress out there. I think there's a lot of financial stress, and pressure that people have. I think that contributes to
Mm-hmm.
it. There's a lot of factors. There's education. There's culture. Don't get me started talking about the music. I think you can't teach people to expect people to be nonviolent and then just fill them up culturally with a bunch of um, language about killing and harming each other set to a seductive beat. We enjoy it. We like it. Like I told you before, I'm a recovering hip hop head. And I had to stop listening to it. I'm gonna be honest with you. When it came to the music, I talk a lot about the dangers this hip hop and the effects that it have on young people.
Mm-hmm.
But my mindset was, look, I'm 51. I'm not about to go up there. I can listen to the music. I'm not about to grab a 47 on anybody, so I can listen to it while I work out. But to some extent, it's hypocritical. So I stopped listening to it. It got to the point where just the language burned my ears. And anytime I hear the N word, it just makes me flinch. And so I just said, I can't do it anymore. I'm listening to house music now to work out. I got to listen to something upbeat. I can't work
Yeah.
out to Motown,
You
even though
listen to
sometimes,
the go-go music from like DC and all that.
yeah, I can listen to that, man. I just had to change my mindset. But anyway, I think there's some cultural issues. There's some
Mm-hmm.
we can't blame everything on racism.
No,
Obviously that's a factor, but we have to take responsibility for what happens in our
exactly.
community, and we have to demand more from each other. Our family
Yeah,
units are just broken apart, and I don't care what anybody says. The best environment for a child is to have a mom and a dad, because
mm-hmm.
mothers and fathers bring different strengths to the household, and that hurts for some people to hear. I mean, it's not to say that a single mother can't do a great job, because many of them do under very
Single
difficult,
fathers too.
and single fathers as well. But I think if they're
Mm-hmm.
being honest, that if they had the right partner, that job, that very difficult job, would be a lot easier. And so a lot of these kids are missing out because they simply don't have the
Mm-hmm.
parental resources, the economic resources, the educational resources to make it easier for them to succeed. But we have to do something different. We can't deny that there's a problem, and blame
Mm-hmm.
is not going to fix it.
Yeah, we have to raise the bar up, man, because like we talked before, we have lowered the bar so much. Man, it's ridiculous. You coming out here in your sleeping pants and slippers and bonnets on, taking your kids to school, going out to eat in restaurants with this mess. Guys, your pants hanging down with like five pair of gym shorts on up under it. You know, you don't know how to talk correctly. You don't, all of these things. We used to wear suits to go out. We used to, or at least put on some jeans and a polo shirt, something to look presentable. And it's like, as time goes on, our standards of what we're willing to accept keeps getting lower and lower and lower. And we need to bring that bar back up. We need to set standards for one another once again. Have some more self-respect. Not saying that everybody doesn't have self-respect, but some, man, you see it. You see it. And as a lawyer, you see what comes in the courtroom. As a parent, you see what has showed up to your kids' school at times, especially when I drop my kids off. When you dealing with inner city, even like when our mother worked for Head Start, you'll see these parents coming in the Head Start, hair laid, nice clothes, kids no coat, or they come in, you know, dirty sleeping pants and slippers on and t-shirts. Come on, man. We got to do better. We have to start somewhere. So you got to start with yourself, build that up, and expect more from one another. When you expect more, you'll be able to do better and eventually do more. And it can become infectious if you know what I'm saying, after a while.
Well, I agree, and I think culturally we have to. I think our real culture has been dragged down by this corporate imposed culture of this hip hop stuff. That's not our culture. That's been imposed upon us. Sexy red is not our culture. You know, I would say even a lot of this music is not our culture. It's something that's been imposed upon us. You
Mm-hmm.
know, we black people, we have a very rich culture of art, very rich culture of music, very rich culture of poetry and literature and writing and work ethic and family values. We have
Mm-hmm.
but that culture has been adulterated by corporations. It's been adulterated by politics. We've been manipulated for the gain of other people and for riches. And we need to get back to what's important to our families, what's important to our communities, and stop allowing ourselves to be manipulated by these other interests who don't have our best interests at heart. And I think the sooner we recognize that, the better. We've been manipulated by political parties who just use us and think they own us. We've been manipulated by corporations, food companies who are killing us.
Man,
I mean,
man.
and telling us that's our culture, man. We are eating ourselves to death, and that's going to have to change. It's going to be impossible for us to succeed if you're not healthy physically. It's going to be impossible to have a long and prosperous life because you're going to be
So,
dealing with those health issues. I mean, so it's so
mm-hmm.
many layers how we've been manipulated for the wealth of other people, and we need to get back to basic, simple, old-fashioned values, or else we're not going to survive.
So you talk about simple, basic, old-fashioned values. It just made me think about a show that's on Netflix called High on the Hog. Have you
Mhm.
heard about it?
No, I haven't.
You got to check it out. Go to Netflix. It's called High on the Hog.
What's
And
about?
what this guy does, he goes to different cities in the U.S. and binds the culture of food from the black community, of how it came about and how it connects to our culture and our history and our values. How did it come about? So even like the dish of macaroni and cheese, he talked about macaroni and cheese was a French dish. So over in France, it was the whole culinary art school. So Thomas Jefferson had a cook, and he wanted him to, learn different types of dishes. So he sent this cook over to France to learn from the culinary art school over there. And so the dish they did was macaroni and cheese. He brought it back over here to the States And Thomas Jefferson loved it so much, he made him cook it for whenever he had guests come over. Eventually, he allowed his cook to get his freedom on one condition that he taught his brother. His cook had to the cook had to teach his brother how to make the macaroni and cheese the way that he did, and it was such a big hit. And he did, and he got his freedom, and he started his own uh like little restaurant.
Wow.
However, you
Mm.
talk about even like with okra, the different types of rice. How did they get over here to America? About the slaves putting the seeds in their hair to bring a piece of home with them that they brought over here. So now you have these different types of grains over here and the dishes, and even about the little restaurants that were back in the day of selling like oysters on the street in New York. It was a certain area or Philadelphia, or these dishes that got uh, made in the cities of I think it was another part of Philadelphia. But he goes to different parts and ties in these different dishes from the different cultures and the different foods from that region and how it came about to for the black community and culture, how this dish was created. Even like with it was like a soup or something that came about, but it was like the scraps and this is what they had in it, and it took time, and then the family would come to eat it. And man, it's so much, man. It's like 2 or 3
Yeah, I
seasons
got to
worth.
check that out. I got to check that out. It sounds interesting.
Yeah.
Um, but in our culture, it we I think historically we gather around food, and it's not just our culture. There's many
Mm-hmm.
cultures that do it, but food is a as a focal point to bring people together,
Mm-hmm.
to enjoy each other. And so my only point in bringing it up is that we just have to make better choices. I have a family member that I take to the hospital regularly, and it just pains me to see all of the chronic illnesses, see the people in the hallways and the clinics, and all of the chronic illnesses that they suffer from. Many of them preventable, and just because culturally we just make the wrong choices, and when it comes to our diet, and so, but that's all a part of creating a more abundant and rich lifestyle. Because the Bible says that Jesus said, "I came to give you life and give you life more abundantly." But it's not just, abundance is an abundance of health, an abundance of
Mm-hmm.
happiness, an abundance of freedom, an abundance of
Yeah.
love
Yeah.
uh, for each other and a sense of community. And I think our culture just needs to shake off all of these imposters and shake off all of these other negative influences and get back to who
Mm-hmm.
we really are. It just pains my heart, man. It's people that I grew up with, and I know that they just come from common sense family, a common sense community, but they bought into this cultural nonsense, this politically correct stuff, and doing whatever the culture says is okay. And they sound like an alien to me. And I just say, I talk to brothers, I say another man down. They done got another one because he on that nonsense.
Mm-hmm.
The stuff that you're talking about doesn't even make common sense. It doesn't make, but it certainly doesn't make sense when it comes to our culture and our history. What are you talking about? Do you just whatever the trend says or whatever your political party says, that's what you buy into? Do you not have any core values that you're gonna stick with, or wherever that vehicle goes, you just gonna hop on board and whatever nonsense they come up with, you just gonna okay it because that's your team. So
Nah.
we got to do a better job, man. There's a lot to be
Mm-hmm.
optimistic. There's a lot of great things happening out here, and I think we just need to focus on that, enhance the good, improve what's not good, and I think we can have a bright future. We can have a bright future, man. But we got to make some different choices as a community. We have to make different choices as a country. I'm for the first time in my life, man. I'm thinking about just the existence of this country and how long it can continue with some of the stuff that's going on.
Well,
And
look,
yeah,
uh, you talk about bright future in the country. Just a little side note. There's a 16-year-old that made the Olympic track and field team for the 4x4. That's from here in Virginia. I think he's from Chesapeake, Virginia. This young man is the youngest member to be on an Olympic team ever. Think about it, 16 years old, going to represent your country to run against all these adults and elite athletes in track and
to be on
field.
an Olympic team ever.
Mhm.
Think about it, 16 years.
Doing the 4x4, man. So we're talking about the bright future. That just made me think about him, man. Squirrel moment, possibly, but I think stuff like that needs to be put out there more because a lot of people don't know about it.
Oh, speaking of that, there's a. I wish I had the article pulled up. There's a sprinter, a female sprinter, who she is going to Paris, so she qualified, but she's wearing representing a clothing line that's a black-owned clothing line. Next time we'll meet, I will have the information, and they're getting a lot of publicity for it. But those are the type of things that I like to see, you know.
Yeah,
And you have
support your
these,
own.
yeah, and you have these independent companies out there. You're not giving your money to Nike or Adidas or Reebok or Under Armour,
Mm-hmm.
and these other folks have an opportunity. So that's great. All right, so bro, what else you got that you want to talk about before we close it out?
So we talked about the whole thing with Bronny, and they talk about nepotism and all of that stuff. And people are still talking about this very strongly. And now that he's been hurt and it's only the second game of the season for people are really ragging on him. But LeBron came out and just said, "Look, man, y'all don't understand. Bronny really don't give a damn about y'all opinion. He go play basketball. He go to practice. He come home. He play video games. He don't pay y'all no attention. He don't care. It don't affect him. And at the end of the day, why all these people are crying saying, oh, you only got the opportunity because of your daddy. But that's how most of those people got their opportunity because of their daddy and their mamas and passing stuff down. But hey, people get injured. Hell, you got Ben Simmons that been out for the last 3 seasons still getting $80 million. So what?
Right. Hey, listen, it's billionaires paying billionaires. Why should I get upset about
Exactly
their financial arrangement? I mean, okay, it's a game. So, I saw that he was injured. Some people say, that's what he get. He's a young man.
I hot to the bank.
Right, exactly. What, he got a $4 million contract? And he's a young man. He has time to improve. He has time to work on his game. I mean, how many people were the best that they're going to be in their chosen trade as soon as they, when they were in their early 20s? It's just that's not the way it works. So we don't know yet. LeBron Jr.'s final chapter hasn't been written yet. He might end up being a terrible player. He might end up being. Look, Detroit picked Darko Milicic with the same NBA class as LeBron James and Carmelo Anthony and Dwayne Wade, and Detroit picked the number 2 Darko Milicic.
Bum, straight bum. Right.
You talk about
what is he, like a horse farmer now or something, man?
I don't know. But the point is that you don't know right after the draft where somebody's career is going to go.
You ain't had to bring back that painful memory at all, bro. You could have kept that one down because he sucked. Horrible. Oh man, that was the worst pick ever.
Yeah, it was just a waste.
Look,
but the next year, I think the year after Detroit won the championship.
It wasn't because of him.
No, it wasn't because of him. That saved Joe Dumars because I was so mad at Joe Dumars for wasting that pick. But anyway, the whole point is that young man might be okay. So we just
Michael Jordan's son didn't even make it, so he's doing better than Jordan's son already.
Yeah. But you have some NBA kids out there, man, who doing their thing. I mean, players that we grew up.
Martin's son.
Yeah. Players that we grew up.
Pippen's son.
Their sons are out there killing it.
Yeah. Hey, look, my whole thing is I'm not mad. Long as he's being a productive citizen in this society today, I'm okay. And when you look at it, man, you can't be mad. You can't be mad. LeBron James came from pretty much nothing to now changing the game changing his city where he's from, giving back, giving the parents opportunities to better themselves, keeping his kids, being involved in his kids' life, even though he's this mega superstar. Like, you can't be mad. Dude, stay winning right now. And his kids are being put in a very, very great position. And it's from the hard work he did. And if as a community, we do that as a whole together, man, a lot of our kids will be in a great position in the future.
No doubt, no doubt. He's a very good example. I could see the sports writers when LeBron was getting out of high school and coming to the league. They were just sitting back waiting for him to get into a fight at a club, have 7 babies, mamas, and just be an overall problem because they just hated him so much. And he has disappointed them at every single turn. He's been a great example of good sportsmanship, of being a good citizen, of being a good teammate, just on so many levels, a great competitor. Everybody that he was in the draft with in that first round, he's the only one that's left that's still playing. I mean, it's just absolutely amazing the career that he has and the great citizen that he's been. So he's a great example on many levels, and I have no anger towards him or his son because if anybody's earned the right to have some nepotism, it's been LeBron James.
Hey, easy day. Look,
No,
I would say this to end the show, man. Look, at the end of the day, we have to do better. We need to pray for, our families and protection and our neighborhoods and our leaders because there's a lot of stuff out there that they got to face and you don't know what tomorrow is going to bring. You don't. So pray for that protection, pray for that covering, pray for wisdom and guidance. And he will never fail you. So that's one thing I think that we as a nation have let go is taking God out of a lot of things. And we need to get back to praying about stuff and putting God first.
Amen, bro. Amen. All right. I'll see you next week.
Love you, bro.
All right, we're out. This is episode 9. Please please follow us on Facebook, follow us on YouTube. Okay. And just check out our page for the next episode. We'll talk to you soon.
All right, Thomas and Terrell Show. Facebook and YouTube. Check us out. Appreciate you.